Hello, it's Cole here, owner of HKA, and in this video I really wanted to share kind of my life over the last 20-30 years of how I've worked, what I've worked, the jobs I've done. And the reason I wanted to share this is because over the years we get some people that go, oh, it's easy for you, you've got this and you've got that, or running the gym, nice and easy. And then there's the flip side, the people that have known me growing up and gone, oh my God, you've worked so hard. So you get the flip side, you get both sides of the coin. And the reason for this video, hopefully, is to help people understand, but also motivate anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a child growing up, if you're watching this in 20 years time, or if you're an adult now watching this. Just as a lot of people say to me, like, how do I manage? How do I get so much done in the day? One of the main things is just getting up and getting out of bed, putting one foot in front of the other and starting to create that path, starting to walk that journey, and enjoying the process, enjoying the journey as you go. So there's quite a bit here, actually I'm going to show you. There's quite a bit here. I had to write it down, so I need to remember it all. But I think it's really important to, even for a bit of an accolade to myself, really, in respects to, when you look back, you get to see, oh, I forgot I'd done that, and I forgot I'd done that, and I forgot I'd done that. So from a very, very young age, I learned a really strong, hard work ethic, whether that be good or bad. But my earliest memory of working was 85, 86, and that's apple picking. That's a lie, actually. My first job, I remember I was about 3 or 4-ish. I remember going out with my dad on the milk float, delivering milk. Age 3 or 4. Now, some would say that's child labour. I used to think it was really cool, running around in a milk float. I don't know my exact age, but I remember I was very young. It was before we moved to the other house I was in. And I remember getting up really early, going out on the milk float, and I used to love it. Picking up the milk, running to doors, drop milk off, coming back. But that was my earliest memory. So from a really young age, I was getting up early and getting out. And I don't even know Dad gave me any money, but it could have been like 20p or something ridiculous. But my point is, that's my first, right, I need to get up, I need to get on with the day. So that was before I went to school and so on. And then a little bit older, age 6-ish, 6, 7, I remember going apple picking. That was mainly because Mum and Dad couldn't afford a babysitter. So they would go to work in the evening, they'd have their day job, so dinner lady, for example. And then they would go apple picking in the evening on the weekend. And this is what I remember anyway. And so I have memories of going apple picking some apples, and then I also remember getting in apple fights with the foster kids that we had. So not only were they working like day and night and weekends, not only did we look after foster kids as well, and our own children, we used to work in the evening. So I remember going apple picking from a very young age as well. And again, that could be good or that could be bad, but I remember starting my life thinking, I've got to work. So I guess that was instilled in me from a really, really young age. At the age of 10, I got a paper round. That was too young to have a paper round. I kind of lied about my age. But literally, as soon as I finished junior school, I wanted to get a job, and I got a paper round. And then what I started to do, for example, I would go in, do the paper round, and then I'd go back, and if anyone's not turned up, I'd then do a second round before going to school. And then from that, what I used to do is, again, because Mum and Dad didn't have much money at the time, I would find ways to make money. So at age sort of 12, 13, on my paper round route, I would then go around and I would ask my customers, obviously they knew me, they liked me, they trusted me, I guess, because I was delivering their papers, way back when you had paper boys, to wash their cars. And it was only like £1 or £2 if I was lucky. I'd normally charge £1 and they'd normally give me £2. But that was like, to start with, like one of my Saturday jobs, because I was too young to get a job. So I was like, well, I'll just go out and find a way of earning money. So I got a little bit of money back that way. I used to get a tiny bit of pocket money, but it wasn't a lot at all. And then in the winter, I used to use my paper round route again. I used to go around snovelling show when we used to get snow, but I would go around and offer to shovel off their driveways, again, just for a little bit of money over the weekend, because I was too young to get an official job. And then I also used to go lawn mowing in between as well. So when my parents were busy, they owned a lawn mowing business as well. So I'd then go out lawn mowing as and when I could. So in summer holidays, school holidays, sometimes at weekends. But this was, again, before I was too young to go and get a job. And then one of my first real jobs, 1993, I've got it written down there, I started working at PSL. So I started doing discos, fixing speakers, fixing lights. We used to go around Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending on if it's a half term and stuff, I used to work as much as I could. But on a Saturday, we used to go around to all the nightclubs, Saturdays, JRs, for example, back in the old days. The old people watching this will remember. We used to fix all the lights and the speakers that had blown up. And then I would also then do some discos as and when they were there. So we'd go out and we'd go and put the discos out on a Saturday night or karaoke in a pub. And then on a Sunday, we'd then go and collect it and bring it back. Obviously depending on if the pub was open. And then when I got a little bit older, as I started to learn a little bit more about discos and lights and sound systems, I then started working for Adam doing discos. So he would go and do like a birthday party. So we'd go over to Seaford and do a 21st birthday party, for example, or a wedding. And my job was just to help set up, put the lights and speakers out, basically be the donkey, and then control the lights while he was DJing. And that was, I used to love that job, by the way. But again, I was still only 13, 14 years old. I started kickboxing when I was 11 as well. I'd done other martial arts before that, but I started kickboxing when I moved, or when I went to William Parker, so just as I turned 11. And I'm still here now, aren't I? But I used to work at Hastings Martial Arts, what it was called at the time. So I started off, again, having a Saturday job, depending on kind of when it fitted. So you're going to say, well, how could I mow lawns and do this and do this? So obviously there were periods throughout these years where I would drop the lawn mowing and then go and work at HMA, sorry. And then as I got older, that kind of grew as well. I left school in 1996, I was 16 years old. I was a right petrol head. I just wanted a car. So I knew I just had to work as hard as I could to earn as much money as I could to go and buy a car, which is what I did. So I left school and I went to Philips. So my first real job was Philips building kettles. And I wasn't there long. I remember it was a cool job. We used to build 600 kettles a day. We was in lines. I can't remember what time we started, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 9-hour day, kettles. But I was only there like 3 months. It wasn't the job for me. I wasn't great at it, but it was a job. I earned some money, which meant I could buy a car, and it meant I could insure the car and start driving. I then wanted to get a trade because I'm not particularly academic. I wasn't great. I wasn't going to college at the time, so I thought I need to get a skill behind me. So I started as an electrician's mate, a Sparky's mate, and I actually started working at Conquest Hospital when they was building the Bupa extension. It's quite good money for my age at the time. It was hard work, but it was good money being a Sparky's mate. But while I was talking to electricians, I thought, well, actually, rather than being a Sparky's mate, what I want to do is go to college and become a qualified electrician, and then I can earn even more money and have an even better trade behind me. So I then joined AB Electrical and I went to college. I was earning £42 a week. Oh, that sucked. Thank you, AB. But I was going to college and I was learning. Now, the first year at college, fine. It was, I managed, I coped, I managed to do the work. But then when I went into the second year, that's when the academic side kicked in. Again, year 2 as a Sparky, all the numbers, all the letters, all the equations and working out. I couldn't do it. I physically couldn't do it. And then I started to run out of money because I was only on £42 a week, plus my weekend work as well, because I was still doing PSL, I was still doing HMA and bits and pieces at the time. So I then joined a company called Safe and Sound, and I started fitting alarms with a good friend of mine, Dave Stokes, and that was a really cool job. Started to earn a bit more money, and I started to learn about security systems and CCTV and bits and pieces. Again, that was a Monday to Friday, the odd Saturday as well. But on top of that, that was 1997, 98. On top of that, I started paintball marshalling. So I'd gone paintballing a few times with some friends. I've always loved it. And then I ended up going there a little bit more. So the guy was like, actually, you're really good at this. Would you like a job? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So it's like 50 quid Saturday and Sundays. So at this point, this is when me and Jenny was looking to buy a house. So Jenny was renting. I was kind of living at home, paying rent. And I said to Jen, why are we wasting money on rent? Why don't we buy a house? Bear in mind, we were 17, 18 at the time. So we ended up, short version, we ended up buying a house when we was 18, which was one of the best moves we ever made. All my mates thought we was mental. They was all buying nicer cars, getting faster cars, going out every weekend. And I had no money because we was spending it on a mortgage and a deposit for a house. So then I was like, wow, I've now got a mortgage. I need to pay more money, so I need to start working more. So I ended up doing the discos. I ended up working at Rye Napa. There's a club over in Rye. I was a lighting engineer there for a couple of years. So again, I used to work there on a Friday night and a Saturday night after doing the alarms. And I used to work there as well, and then all the other bits of stuff in between. And then in 1999, I left that and I managed to get an interview. I haven't even written this down, but I just thought of this. I managed to get an interview with BT. Now, I asked a friend of mine, I need to get an interview, and they said, well, they're interviewing next week, just turn up. So I didn't have an interview booked. I very cheekily just turned up, and I said to one of the guys, I'm here for an interview, and he said, what appointment have you got? And I was like, well, I haven't. I've just been told to come up and grab an interview if I can. And he went, well, you need to book an interview. So I said, well, I've travelled all this way, here's my CV. I don't mind waiting for the end of the day. If someone doesn't turn up, would I be able to take their space? This was up in Crawley. And he went, I'll tell you what, mate. The guy that I spoke to, he said, I'll tell you what, I kind of like you, kind of funny, bit cheeky. He said, I don't like sitting in my lunch break by myself. He said, so I'll do you in the lunch break. So I'm like, okay, cool, perfect. So I had the interview, I got the job. Now, my CV is full of kickboxing stuff, pretty much nothing to do with school because I wasn't at school, was I? Or I wasn't very good at school, let's say that. And but it was all full of all my kickboxing stuff, my titles and my gradings and bits and pieces. And his son was a black belt in karate, so we spoke about BT for about 2 minutes, and then we spoke about karate, kickboxing for about 45 minutes, and then I got the job. So sometimes it's worth pushing yourself. Sometimes it's worth being a bit cheeky, going outside the box, and really just getting away with what you can within reason. And then I was at BT for 17 years. Was it my passion? No. Did I get up and whistle while I went to work? No. Was it a good job? Yeah, it was a good job. I enjoyed it. If I had to go back, I would. But again, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting ready for the work, going in manholes and sewers and bits and pieces. But I enjoyed the work. And then while I was at BT, we used to spend loads of time. Me and Jenny split up, got divorced. Completely different story. But that did kind of crush me for a little bit. So I ended up spending quite a lot of time going to the Isle of Wight to see Rich and Kathy and their family because it was a little escape. So that was our weekend away with the girls. We'd go down there, spend the weekend at the Isle of Wight. And every single time we'd go there, we'd talk about business. What can we do? How can we make more money? Can we create a business? There must be ways of generating better incomes, multiple streams of income. I had no idea what I was doing, by the way. So like, over the next sort of 10 years, I tried so many different things. Again, paintballing. I used to buy and sell stuff on eBay. As an example, a simple thing. I'd buy a snowboard in the summer and I'd pay no more than a tenner for a snowboard because no one wants to buy a snowboard in the summer. So people would ask 50, 60 quid and they'd slowly lower the price down and then you just go, I'll give you a tenner, I'll pay for it now. And they'd be like, yeah, go on then. So I'd then service it, wax it, sharpen up all the edges, keep it clean, leave it till the winter and then sell it in the winter. And generally speaking, you'd sell them between 75 quid and 150 quid roughly. So I'm buying them for a tenner and then selling them for, I mean, a couple I sold for nearly 200 quid. So if you think of the markup there, and what I wasn't doing is spending too much money out. What else did I brought and sold chairs. I found a company that done chairs that were damaged. So for example, I brought a couple of lazy boy chairs and they were damaged underneath. When the delivery people had picked them up, they put their hand through the bottom of the netting. So whoever brought them was like, no, I don't want that. So they went to this factory. So I paid £1 for 2 armchairs, as in £1 each. So I paid £2 for 2 lazy boy armchairs and I sold them for 450 quid each. It's insane. I mean, that doesn't normally happen, but I was always ducking and diving, always trying to find ways of making money. I was always trying to find the next thing. And I'm guessing that goes back to from age 5, 6, I guess, I don't know, but there's something that in me that is constantly driving me to push forward. Like I say, when me and Jenny went through divorce, split up, kind of hit me quite hard. And then I went from having what I would say a typical, 3-bedroom house, wife, children, and then stepping away and moving forward. What that done, I moved into a caravan. For me, everything had gone. But then what that done is reignited, believe it or not, even more energy, even more focus, even more drive to go, there's nothing wrong with living in a caravan, by the way. But when you've gone from having all of this to that, I was like, right, I am going to work every hour under the sun. I'm going to drive, I'm going to push, I'm going to be as motivated as I can to get absolutely as far as I can in life, because I had to start to rebuild, I had to start to resave. So I threw myself into working all my overtime I could, working the weekends, again, a bit of paintball marshalling, buying and selling stuff, as I was anyway. But then I also HMA, Hastings Martial Arts, used to train. So while all of this was going on, I was still doing my best to train 3 or 4 times a week as well. And then about 19, 20, my instructor left, and he basically said, you can take it on, you can continue. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I did. And it slowly started to grow. I used to take the money and then give it to him at the end of the month. Again, short version of that is 2009, Hastings Martial Arts, HMA, become HKA, and then we started to build the martial arts. I borrowed some money, got a loan, and we opened up our first ever super centre, which is just across the road from here, ironically, over in the corner of Castleham. We spent about 25k completely renovating it. It's one of the first gyms, dojos of its kind, where it's a whole unit that got changed into a gym, and we loved it. And short version, the council said we could have planning permission. Turns out we couldn't, they rejected it. So a year later, after all that time and effort and money, it got taken away from us. And then we had to move back to William Parker for a little bit. Still working at BT, still teaching at William Parker 3 or 4 nights a week. And then 2011, when we lost it and we had to move, I then built a private dojo in the back garden. So the house that I had then moved into with my dad. So I lived with my dad for like 10 years, 12 years, because I couldn't afford to buy a house by myself. So neither could my dad. So me and my dad put our money together, and then we managed to buy a slightly bigger house, and I lived in the annex. There's another whole story. So at the back, we had a massive, massive shed, which we ripped it down, put a new roof and walls on it, and we turned it into a gym, which we used for my private gym. So I was teaching at William Parker, and then I was doing a little bit at home by myself and with some clients, like my fight team needed training, etc. And obviously I couldn't just go to William Parker on a Sunday night and teach. So we had a dojo at home, which was called The Hive, which was really, really cool. On top of all that, while I was at BT, I got a manager's job for a little while, so I was covering manager's jobs. So it made my life a little bit easier at BT. So somehow I managed to also then get a job at JRM Motorsport over in Rye, Sumo Power. So working with the JRM cars, working with Skylines and all their race cars. And again, that was like 1 day a week, a bit of an afternoon. So I managed to kind of manage and go and do that at the same point. As long as I had my phone and laptop with me, I could manage the team, but I could also still get away with doing that. Didn't last too long, but I managed to get away with it for a little bit. Then, as that was all happening, HK was growing. So in 2014, we then moved to Trojan Gym, and then we hired the back part of Trojan. It was 900 square foot. So it's quite small, quite compact. I mean, it's a proper sweatbox. But that was, as it started to grow again, so we basically took it over. That was our area, because it was their old cardio area. That was in 2014, and then it started to grow and grow. We then took on next door, so the landlord owned the building. They said, you're getting really big, would you like the building that's next door? So it was another 600 square foot. So we took that on, knocked the wall down, and then started to grow. And then we done that again a year later, where we took on where we had the reception. So it kind of grew and it grew and it grew. We never knew that was going to happen at the time. I also then, I actually damaged my knee. I snapped my ACL in 2015, I think. So I had 6 months off work. Which meant I could do more work with JRM at the time in bits and pieces. I ended up going to a random meeting with a friend of mine who was buying a business. It ended up being where 1066 Airsoft is after we sold it on. But we brought it, I can't even remember who we brought it from now, but we took it on. I took it on as a silent partner. I wasn't really going to do much with it. There was a scare maze there and Nerf and bits and pieces. Again, short version, we took it on. He then went through a divorce. I won't mention his name, so I then took it over. So we ended up doing a business called Apocalypse Live. So over 3 months, we turned the whole building into a massive scare maze. We'd never done it before, I'd never done it before. A huge team of people helped me. We'd done a whole weekend of scare maze, so like Thorpe Park, like Tully's Farm, but our own version of it. And it was insane. But then after we finished it, we thought, oh, that'd be really good to carry on. But obviously most people only really do scare mazes. Bear in mind, this is a few years ago, at Halloween. So what we found is after Halloween, it just died a death. So short version again, we ended up selling it and moving on. This is all between, so I would go to BT, I'd work at BT, I would then go to kickboxing, teach kickboxing, I'd then finish kickboxing, and then go and work at Apocalypse till midnight for a few months while we were building it. Just to give you an idea, do you know what I mean? Just an idea. I mean, as I say that, I'm not thinking I was mental, probably a mental. What else did we do? So then, at this point, I left BT in 2015, November 2015. And basically what happened is, over that last 2 years, like I just said, I ended up working over 100-hour weeks, and my wife my dad, my brother, pretty much everyone around me was like, Carl, you are going to kill yourself. You are pushing far too hard. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing a bit of paperwork, doing a PT, going to BT, doing 9 hours of BT, finishing early, going to the gym, teaching, going to Apocalypse Alive. It was generally killing me, absolutely killing me. And I had been saying that I was going to leave BT for years. So it took me about 2 years to pluck the courage up to finally leave the job. And I was like, I'll leave at Christmas. HMA grew a little bit. The other businesses were growing a little bit. I was making a bit more money. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, I'll leave at Easter because, you know, working that many hours and doing it was all right. Anyway, I ended up leaving November 2015, and then that's when I could put all of my time, all of my effort, all of my energy into HKA. And then, of course, because I could put all my energy in, I ended up growing it again. But the problem there was, because I left BT and I'd lost that money, but what I'd gained is all the time throughout the day, I was like, how am I then going to replace that? So what I automatically done is just filled them hours with teaching, PTs, classes, help. So again, I was really busy. The company grew again, which was really, really great. But all I'd done is replaced 10 hours of work from one thing, from 10 hours of work to another thing, which, of course, coming to gym, I love it. And I still love it today. I've been doing it over 30 years and I still love it. But it was getting to a point where I was pushing and breaking. In between that, believe it or not, we actually set up another company, the Fitness Education Specialist, 2018. It didn't work. We set up the Spud Box. That didn't work. So again, I always seem to try, what's next, what's next? Some things work fantastically and some things don't work whatsoever. One of the other things we looked at was, so we've got HK USA. A friend of mine, Nick, runs that over in America. I don't really have much to do with it whatsoever, but that was an idea of, we make custom gloves, we supply kit for everyone here, so we just thought wouldn't it be a cool idea to run it in America? And it was originally called HKA England, but that didn't work. So 6 months later, Nick rebranded it to HK USA, and now Nick runs the whole thing over in America, but that's what you see. But again, we just spend a bit of time talking and going backwards and forwards. I've then come up with a few other things as well, like custom designs and bits and pieces, which is still running. It's not particularly busy, but it is there and it is still running. And then one of the other big shifts for me was in 2020, we had COVID and bits and pieces. I went to Expert Empires to learn about business, because what then I actually realised is I was running the business, I was running HKA, but I knew nothing about business. You know, as it grew, as it got to a point, actually we're earning a bit of money, we've got to pay tax, and you know, we've got employees now and HR and all that kind of stuff. I thought, I know how to run classes, I know how to run a kickboxing session, and I know how to run a week's worth, and I know how to run a fight team, but I don't actually know that much about business apart from paying the tax man at the end of the year. So I went to Elite Expert Empires, and then met Gordon, went to Mastermind, and then since then I've started to really learn about business and started to learn about leveraging team, but as we get more team, we end up doing more, so I end up doing more. And then January 21, we were at Trojan, and we'd expanded as much as we could, and we were still growing. So in the middle of COVID, my landlord come and showed me this building. It didn't look like this when we started. It was offices, but because everyone was working from home, this business shut, the offices moved out. So we come in and then spent time renovating it to the gym that you know as of today, 2024. And I just wanted to share that really with you. I don't know how long I've been waffling for, probably 20 odd minutes. But life isn't easy. Life, sometimes it gets given to you, but like things go around in circles as well. And I'm not saying working this hard is right, and I'm not saying what I've done is correct, because I look at people that don't work anywhere near as hard, and I think I actually admire them. I actually look up to them thinking, I wish I could be that way at times. But if you look at Will Smith, Tom Cruise, Arnold Schwarzenegger, even Trump, like if you look at what they've achieved and what they've done and how hard they've had to work, if you want to be a professional fighter, if you want to be a professional dancer, a footballer, if you want to be a doctor, a dentist, if you want to be a scientist, like if you want to be really high up in whatever field it is, you're really going to have to work. And again, we teach so many children, and like a lot of the kids will say, I want to be a professional footballer. Okay, cool. How often do you play football? Once a week, twice a week. The likelihood of you being a professional footballer is very slim. I want to be a professional singer, and so on. And people say, oh, yeah, that's right, you've got a nice big gym. Yeah, but it wasn't just given to us. We didn't just go, oh, we'll pay for it and turn up. It's taken like 30 years of hard grind, some wins, some losses, navigating through hoops. Again, diamonds are formed under pressure. So again, if you went to the gym and only ever lift 5 kilos, you're never going to get bigger or stronger. So you've got to lift heavier, you've got to lift more, you've got to do more. But by doing that, you're going to get stronger and stronger. And it's no different at school, at work. The more you work, in theory, the more you're going to earn. In theory, it's not straight as cut as that. But the more you go to school, the more you educate yourself, the more you learn, the more you listen, the more you take on, the better you're going to get, the more pressure you're going to go under, the more you are going to grow. And in theory, moving on, that will help you later on in life. And even now, so I'm 44 this year, and I'm still learning stuff every month when I go to Mastermind. I'm still thinking, I could do that, I could improve in that. I've just learned, it doesn't matter what I've learned, but I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm evolving. And like even now, today, I think, well, what more can I get? So I wanted to share this story. Hopefully this might motivate some of you. For the people that say it's easy, it's not easy, but the journey can be fun. So if I look back at that, I think, wow, what a journey, what a wicked, like, if I look at them jobs, I think I'm beside myself a little bit, because I think, actually, you know, it's worth it. And the mindset behind doing that, I believe, I really do believe, is kind of has got me to where we've got to today. But also, my wife, ex-wife, children, the people that work for us, Kaz, Callum, like that ethic, that ability to work, that ability to want to go out and get more. So it's not just about work, but with your relationships with, you know, the more you put into relationships, the more you're going to get out of it. So if you don't put much in, you're not going to get much out. So I guess the more you put in, the more you're prepared to work, whether that be physically, mentally, emotionally, the more you're prepared to give, I think the more you get back. And that just works time and time and time again. So there you go. Thanks for listening. I hope that motivates some of you. I hope that maybe sheds a little bit of light on my personal life. Like I say, this is just personally for me. And if it helps some of you, then amazing. So take care. Thanks for listening. See you soon.